share the information I have about 3 companies: Califone, Roberts, and Akai Electronics. Akai was founded in 1929. Califone was founded by Robert G. Metzner as Metzner Electronics in 1946. The Califone line is fairly well known as an educational products company, providing phonographs, tape recorders, and other audiovisual products. But Roberts and Akai have a long history that's really rather fascinating. I thought this was a good place to do it, where you've got an Akai unit up on top that looks identical to the Roberts down below. This is a Roberts on my left, and it is also exactly like that on Akai. Robert Metzner met the Akai folks and was impressed with how they were making their phonograph motors. In one of the sources, when I was looking into Robert Metzner, it said that he developed an audiophile turntable, which he called the Metzner Starlight, to be made in Japan for sale in the United States. This was from a person who actually worked for the company, and he said the product was quite successful, so he decided to expand his operation. At some point, it said that Metzner sent an Ampex 600 series tape recorder to Japan and asked if Akai could make a similar model. And this was the results of the first Robert recorder models, which in fact are very similar in appearance to the Ampex 600s. At some point, he made an agreement with Akai to provide the transport mechanism for his tape recorders, and he would provide the electronics. Rheem Manufacturing acquired Roberts at about 1967, and that this relationship continued as an existing division of Rheem until 1972 or 3, when Roberts was sold. One of the persons working with me on some of these recorders, his wife, who was interned with Rheem in New York for a year about 7 or 8 years ago. One of her tasks from us while she was there was to see if she could find any information about the Rheem ownership of the Roberts and Califone companies. Nobody there had a clue. Not even persons who had been with the company for quite some time had ever heard that Rheem owned a tape recorder company. At some point, Bob Metzner sold off his holdings. In Phil Van Praag's book, The Evolution of the Audio Recorder, he also talks about the Roberts, Califone, Rheem, and Akai combination. Phil notes that somebody in an organization had close ties to the music industry, and thus the Roberts ads that included a lot of famous folks. Akai did not sell their tape recorder products in the United States until 1971. As I was researching the beginnings of Roberts tape recorders, I found out that Robert Metzner was living in Beverly Hills, California. I was able to make contact with his son Richard, who is a doctor in Arizona. Richard called me while he was visiting his father in California. He said his father was quite excited about the attention that the Roberts were getting. He said there was a couple of things he wanted to correct on the information that was out about the beginnings of Roberts, and that's that he founded the company with a Robert Craig, not a Robert McGallis as has been listed some places. This is most likely the Robert Craig of Craig Panorama, a company that was founded in the 1930s to distribute photographic products. In the 1960s, the company was known best for their tape recorders, which were products that they sourced from Sanyo and Pioneer. Mostly they were reel-to-reel, but the company expanded into the 8-track cartridge market. Interestingly, they also had some celebrity endorsements, like Stan Kenton, which is similar to what Roberts had, marketing some of their tape recorders. They also marketed a black and white video recorder, which Roberts also did. Just wanted to mention also that Audio Tools noted that some of the top Craig employees left to work for Pioneer. This is similar to the employees that left TEAC and went to work for Fostex. I'll be adding more information about the Roberts beginnings as I get information. So now I'm going to show you some of the machines and how similar they were. Here's an example of 2 units. The left one is the Akai, the right one is the Roberts. They're almost identical. You'll find this also in the Roberts 770 series, the Akai M8 that looks identical to the 770. One other interesting thing was the evolution of the Roberts logo. Early on they had something that looked very similar to the Rolls-Royce logo, and then they moved on actually into quite a variety of different logos. This is the Roberts 192 FT. This unit came out in the early 60s and actually was available until the late 60s. It was aimed toward the broadcast industry as a single channel monaural unit. This unit's a little bit unusual in that most of the ads that I've found had the regular Roberts head cover, not a chrome cover like this, so this is a bit unusual. This also has the plaque on it that this was the original design by Jack Davis, which showed up on several of the tape recorders. There is no indication on the front, back, or sides of this unit of the exact model or date, thinking that this is probably around 1962. It is interesting to note the similarity that a lot of these to the Ampex recorder setups in the 600 series. The unusual Roberts machine in that it's a photo sync, so it would actually allow you to set up a slide machine and sync your photos. But otherwise it's the same basic Roberts machine. It's got the release for the playback. This is the Roberts 400, which is a predecessor to the 400X. There's a lot of things on this unit that are rather unique, including a brake control, so that you could actually adjust your brake tensions. The unit had a mute button, which was basically raising the heads away from the tape, so you had either mute or play. Then it would cut off the sound, and it would also protect the heads during fast wind. Had the ability to do repeat, reverse, or shut off on the automatic function, which is all controlled with the timer up above. Also gave you lots of control over your track selection. You could optimize what you were playing back. It had treble and bass controls, 2-speed unit, 3 3/4, 7.5. So it would take a remote control on the left. And that's with the mute button on, and you turn off the mute. Here's the Roberts 330. This is the recorder that got me started in recording, basically, because this was the unit that was being used at our junior-senior prom by the band The Believers. This Roberts came with a pair of mics. This unit was built in 1964 and cost $349. And this unit has The Believers on it.
Anybody needing change for the Coke machine may get change from his water at the front door. Playing with us tonight from Sawgrass College up in Alpine, Texas.
This is the Roberts 400X, which was built in 1965, and the Akai version was the 355X. This unit would reverse, had incredible high-speed winds because it was a 3-motor unit. It would do sound on sound, sound over sound, sound with sound. It had a 4-digit push-button index counter. The counter was also tied to a timer-type mechanism, which enabled you to either reverse, repeat, or stop the unit at the end of a certain portion of the tape.
It hurts a lot, baby. I need you. When am I gonna ever learn what I never learned before? Keep my phone, people try. Be by the dawn, beat it down, dawn. It was a hot August night. the city lights.
Very neat mechanism, especially for somebody in a long play, but again, fantastic sound on this machine. Same thing on wind. It had really great wind. It actually had the ability to pull down so that you could save the wear on the head.
Just like a hand in a glove. Yes, it does.
Great machine. I mentioned that Akai and Roberts share configurations. Well, this is another very classic one. This is a 10.5-inch reel machine, incredible torque, beautiful playback. These are both solid state units. All the lettering and everything are basically the same, except that one has the Roberts logo on it and one has the Akai logo. The Roberts 770X. It could do sound on sound, sound with sound. It had separate power amplifiers, 2 speeds, and basically you could change speed using the capstan. This right now has a 7.5 capstan setting on it. You could take the capstan off, change it, and lower the speed. You also had an electronic change that you could make, so you not only could make a speed change with the capstan, but also with the speed, so you ended up with 4 different speeds on this unit. But this was a very professional looking machine as well as operating machine. When you put this into play, Roberts did a real neat thing. They added this little button over here that allows you to pause so that you're really ready to go when you're ready to play or record. So you hit the button.
It's only been a year or so, but it seems so long ago. I packed up my bags and left my home.
Rewind and fast forward were adequate, but they were working off one motor. This was a 1-motor unit. You can hear the tape running at that point. They did not put tape lifters on a lot of these early machines to protect the heads as it was going along. This unit was also built for 50 or 60 cycles. You could have an automatic stop, and it had a 4-digit counter. Probably the most unique thing about the Roberts recorders in this period was the crossfield head.
With songs they have sung for 1,000 years, the hills fill my heart with the sound of music.
Talking about the Roberts 770X, which came out in 1967, I should also mention that they had an earlier version that came out in 1966. It was also called the 770, just a little bit different styling. Interestingly, because the dual amplifier look was established by Ampex with their 600-2, this is one of the things that brought the professional look to the 770 series. Another one that was very similar was the Woolen Sack, 1980. Their control setup was actually quite different using these buttons. Overall, the unit really had the same look to it with the dual amplifiers. Here we have the portable Roberts 6000. This is a great little portable recorder with built-in crossfield head using 5-inch reels. Roberts 1000. Plays both audio and video. Audio is threaded using just a normal procedure. You have your basic rewinds, fast forward. Good reverse. You also have tracking because it's got a video head, it's got automatic gain control. You would then take the tape, come off of here for the audio thing, you go up to the video. You want to come across the audio head that's up here, come back down. Comes across those heads as well, and then it just comes through and then across. This unit came out in 1969. They had the ad that said if you wanted to watch the moon landing, this was a machine to have. You could also get a camera and monitor with it. The unit ran $1,100, and with your camera and monitor, it was $1,675. Once the recorder is rethreaded for video, you switch it to video, and you've got a video black and white recorder. Unfortunately, we had a repair shop work on this in Austin for 3 months, and they never were able to get a signal out of the video head. You can go back to audio. And rethread the tape. And you're back to playing audio. Very unique unit. This unit was also called the X500 when it came out in the Akai version. This sound on sound, quarter track, mixing line inputs.
Labios quisiera besar tus labios, quisiera malagueña.
This is a Robert 610X. Interesting again during this period of time that you also got the Rheem air conditioning logo. This one had 2 speakers out to the front for playback, choice of mic and line inputs. And the unit was 4-speed, 15/16, 1 7/8, 3 3/4, and 7 1/2. Had a battery level indicator, VU meters, digital counter, and the crossfield heads. Track selection on the head cover. This unit was also produced as an Akai, and this is the Roberts 333X. And again, the interesting thing about this unit is, for instance, let's start with reel to reel. You had the full complement of reel-to-reel controls. You can switch to cassette. Over here on the left, you actually have a built-in cassette recorder. There's actually a group called Kataman that I recorded at the Antones Club in 1979. So we've got reel-to-reel, we've got cassette. Would you believe this also will take, on the right-hand side, an 8-track tape? And what better person to demonstrate that, I guess? Elvis. And it had track selector just like all 8 tracks have. So this machine really gave you a lot of options. Due to the various motors and controls to run a unit that can do reel-to-reel, 8-track, and cassette, we had to merge 2 units, and it took an Akai and a Roberts put together that ended up in 1 unit. We ended up with the Roberts as it was cosmetically a better unit and got it all to play.